Hong Kong history, early British period. Hong Kong was a colony of the British Empire from 1841 to 1997. Causes. Imperialism was the most important cause of the British colonization of Hong Kong. In relation to the British imperialism was the second most important cause, the deteriorating power of China. The third most important cause was the opium trade and consumption of opium that became pervasive only after the late 18th century. With a law established in 1799 banning the trade of opium, the Commissioner Lin Zexu was employed in 1839 to specifically burn opium. Another important cause for the colonization of Hong Kong consisted of the Canton system. Linked to the Canton system was the Napier Affair, which occurred in 1834. Trade expansion was another reason for the colonization of Hong Kong. After the Industrial Revolution, Britain had a significant leap forward in its technologies, leading to its rising nationalism and militarism. Great tension over ceremonial and protocol matters and issues such as kowtow resulted in increasing tension between the two empires. All of the above causes resulted in the First Opium War and the Treaty of Nanjing, which officially gave Hong Kong Island to the British Empire from the Chinese.
On 26th of January 1841, the British flag was raised on Hong Kong Island when Commodore James Boomer and Captain Edward Fletcher landed at Possession Point. A series of governors, Henry Pottinger, John Davis, George Boham, followed Charles in ruling over Hong Kong. By 1860, the Stonecutter Island and Kowloon were acquired from China under the First Convention of Beijing.
Hong Kong officially became Crown Colony under Pottinger's rule in 1842 as Hong Kong's first governor. The 1843 Hong Kong Charter specified Hong Kong was to be governed by a royally appointed governor, assisted by a legislative and executive council. The Hong Kong Electorate only began in the 1860s when Sir Hughes Robinson appointed extensively Cantonese-trained young British graduates to join the government as an efficient staff of interpreters. The infamous Caldwell case involving an unfair judgment from the British Law Court was a significant example of discrimination against the Chinese.
The Chinese population and English population were separated. The English occupied the eastern part of Hong Kong, while the Chinese occupied the western part. The merchants in Hong Kong sold silk and jade, along with giving advice about feng shui. Also, Hong Kong's tea culture began, which eventually evolved into yum cha. The crime rate in Hong Kong was very high, and its code of punishment was very loose, resulting in women being stolen and being sold into prostitution. Well, forced.
The growth of Hong Kong relied significantly on domestic transportation of goods and people across the Victorian harbour. Soon after the 1841, Roman Catholics and Protestants began preaching and opening schools in Hong Kong. Jardine Matheson and several other prominent foreign traders relocated their head offices from Macau to Hong Kong in early 1844. Hong Kong initially had extremely weak weapons from the Chinese government prior to the Opium Wars. The Lai Yuen Fort was an earlier construction project that the British had in relation to the military outpost in Hong Kong. Both Indian and Hong Kong's colonization resulted from the imperialism of the British. The colonization of Hong Kong derived from the British imperialistic invasion of the declining Chinese Empire. The colonization of India coming from the British conquering of India through the East India Company. In both instances, the affected countries, China and India, were weak when the British attacked them. China was at the end of the high-level equilibrium trap. India amidst the rule of the seceding Mongol Empire. The two countries were also abundant in resources, which were deemed valuable by the British. However, the colonization of Hong Kong was indirect for China, whilst that India was by direct confrontations with the local authorities. The British Hong Kong introduced a significant number of consequences, some benign, some negative. The law system was incomplete in the early British period, though the foundations were established. Another important consequence related to the development of Hong Kong was the medium-term consequence of a new education system, replacing the traditional Chinese education with refined and systematic Western education. A significant change to both the social and cultural aspect of Hong Kong would be the introduction of various infrastructural and architectural changes. The sudden growth of transportation was highly significant, as the original rickshaws gradually were eliminated by modern automobiles and contemporary vehicles. Democracy spurred from the introduction of the British law system and was existent in the later stages of Hong Kong colonization. An immediate consequence of the early British period, ending in the late 1819s, was the Convention of Beijing, which leased the new territories to Hong Kong for 99 years. After all, the British colonization of Hong Kong left a highly beneficial legacy in Hong Kong, making Hong Kong into what it is now and letting Hong Kong shine as the pearl of the East.